Who is the scariest character to enter the Entities realm? Today I'd like to find that out by combining the backstories and lore as well as the visual and design aspects of these characters to determine which is the scariest. We'll start out with the least scary and work our way up to the most, covering all of the base game killers as well as the bonus ones available through cosmetics. Hey everyone, and let's get into it. Slightly scary. Twins to me is the least directly scary character of the game. They're two quite innocent characters in reality, hunted from birth due to them being conjoined and the people at the time believing it to be witchcraft. For this, their mother was killed and they were hunted all their lives, with Victor even dying at the hands of the Black Veil cult. This is probably the scariest aspect of them I can think of, Victor's return. Years after the death of Victor, he appears again out of a fog. The idea seems to be that it isn't a real Victor, but instead a Victor constructed by the Entity to manipulate Charlotte. Despite this, Charlotte continues on and seems to even care for this new Victor, and likely because it's the only family she has. It's sad, but also really scary and quite creepy that all Victor really is a manifestation of Charlotte's memories of him. The twins therefore are not too scary, but this fake Victor, but also their likely little care and trust for anyone else does still make them somewhat scary. Skull Merchant is a character with quite a few design conflicts. Visually she seems to combine quite a few ideas, although I do think some horror comes through when looking at her deadly dual blades and her drones made of literal skulls. Merchant is a character who became what she was largely as a result of her father leaving and the dark manga he left behind. Adriana became determined to embody the character of the Skull Merchant that no one wanted to pick up. She becomes a millionaire and buys up companies, scrapping them and getting rid of anyone in her way. She is brutal and becomes well known. It's a scary story from a lore perspective, but her visual design I do think lets her down. The Ferryman is another character who isn't technically a killer necessarily, being the ferryman of the underworld prior to coming to the Entities realm. He would accept a burial coin and then row the souls across a river in the underworld. He's a character who's described to be primarily very bored in this role, eternally left down there and surrounded by souls basically. In the realm, his becoming of a killer can maybe be attributed to this boredom, an opportunity to let out emotion where he couldn't before. This is definitely a scary concept, and the ferryman further has a relatively disturbing look. Notable elements to his visuals are the crying souls and his wielding of an oar as a weapon, a reminder of his old job. Despite this, I do think he's on the tamer side for horror. Trickster is a character that many will take on face value and laugh at the concept of a character like this being scary. However, there's much more to Trickster than what meets the eye. A character with an obsession for the screams of others after hearing his bandmates die in a fire. The Trickster used his power, wealth, and influence to manipulate those around him and to target his fans. He would capture them and get them to scream, using these in his songs, listened to by likely millions. He's a scary representation of the horrors of people with that much power and influence. A character who's able to so openly and messily do what he does and get away with it, all because of his position, all whilst having an outwardly flashy and artificial appearance, a disturbing cleanliness and superiority about him. So definite scare factor. Naughty Bear is just a stuffed bear, and so however much fear you can feel for that is definitely going to vary from person to person. Despite this, he is a rather grisly looking bear, and is very large and imposing, despite again just being a stuffed bear. It's a unique type of horror, I would say, and considering his universe's main populace is stuffed bears, Naughty Bear is a serial bear murderer. Pretty scary, I guess. I suppose if we were all stuffed bears, it would probably be a lot more scary. The Jabberwock is a strange creature taken from the stories of Alice in Wonderland and brought to the realm by a lore character named the Mad Designer. It's the designer's take on the Jabberwock, with it having quite a disturbing and strange appearance within the realm as it morphs to the artist. There's not much of a story behind the Jabberwock to go on, and although it has scary elements and a unique stance and posture in the realm, I do think it's on the lower end. A strange and and creepy creature. The Legion are a group of 4 teenagers: Frank, Julie, Susie, and Joey. Legion, as killers of the realm go, are quite normal in appearance. They have no otherworldly presence visible on or around them. They sound and look human, and yet this is sort of what makes them scary too, at least for me, is this grounded and gritty design. It's one of few characters you could possibly meet in real life, a group of teenagers who took the wrong path. Legion are led by Frank, but also sort of Julie. They're a couple, and they're really into serial killers. They cause chaos across their quiet town of Ormond, stealing, vandalizing, and more. It's only when Joey is fired from his job that things get very bad though. The Legion go to his old workplace, intent on causing some more chaos, but are busted by a store clerk. Together they kill him and bury him up Mount Ormond, close to the resort where their headquarters reside. They're tough to judge as a group a lot of the time, but ultimately they are scary, although on the lower side. Visually and in backstory, there's a groundedness to them that is quite scary to think about. Eddie is the cover for Iron Maiden, and in the realm appears in 4 different forms. There's not necessarily a definitive backstory for Eddie, at least that I know of, in these various forms, but instead these just being ways in which he has manifested within the realm. These versions and designs are pretty messed up looking too, and provide a wide range of horror elements. They are cool and do have a fear factor, but for me they can't be too high due to not having a fleshed out story behind them. Clown is another more grounded character. He's messy and gross looking, and appears generally quite creepy. The grounded horror similar to groups like the Legion is definitely what makes him visually scarier. When looking at Clown's backstory, it's a simple and messed up one. A character with a tough childhood who became an indulgent and sloppy killer. Someone who used the disguise of a clown outfit and the surroundings of a circus to lure people in, ending them and taking their fingers. It's a disturbing character for sure. Pretty scary. Spirit or Rin Yamaoka is probably the realm's most innocent character on the bad side. She's a fairly normal young adult. She goes to college, she works part-time, and she tries to help her father who is struggling to uphold their family's once great Yamaoka estate and legacy. Her rage isn't even seemingly her own. It's this otherworldly intervention that connects her to her ancestors who were once ruthless samurai. The most violent thing she ever does is fight her bullies, but even this is largely in self-defense, and she feels terrible after. Coming home from work one day, Rin hears her mother's screams. She finds her dead at the hands of her father. Her father then attacks her too. On the brink of death, the entity sees the potential in Rin's anger and emotion, and makes a deal with her. Her father's life in exchange for servitude in the realm, it seems. In the realm, she is now a reconstructed version of herself, likely the entity's doing. She seems conflicted within, flitting between anger and a solemnness. She likely regrets what she's become. It's quite likely her servitude and anger even comes from the entity manipulating her vision to see the survivors as her father. A scary reality of the entity's power, but also a horrific and disturbing outcome for what was once someone just like you and me. Tiffany Valentine is a character who always looks as if she's plotting something devious. She has a sinister smile on her face and appears to survey the area carefully. She was Chucky's partner in crime after all, and is too responsible for many of the terrible things that he did, particularly on their road trip. While she's not as definitively evil or outright scary as Chucky, she does definitely have that fear factor, and a disturbing openness and enjoyment when it comes to what she does. She's a doll, sure, but the human embodying it is quite menacing. Not only this, but her being here seems to be a result of her bond being so strong with Chucky that it brought her back from death, which in itself is pretty terrifying. Chucky became a doll at the point of his death, transferring himself into a good guy doll so he could live on. In this doll he became somewhat famous for it, spreading chaos and enjoying it, and even embracing this new form eventually. Chucky does a wide range of terrible things as he flits from each of his goals or desires. The one thing that drives him just seems to be pure evil, a desire to attack others and have no mercy. In the realm, he is still this larger-than-life, crazed killer in a doll's body. He seems happy to be there and ready to partake take in whatever the realm is. He doesn't care, he's just happy to be there. A character who truly is very scary despite his appearance of a doll. Artist. What makes Artist so scary isn't necessarily her own actions or her appearance, but instead the many things the entity did to mess with her life. She's an embodiment of the manipulative power and determination the entity has to feed on emotion. The entity seems to guide the life of Yamamura, forcing her to feel grief and pain at every turn, to quite an excessive extent. It appears responsible for the death of her brother, yet equally for saving her as she stands at the edge of a bridge. Its presence is both a blessing and a curse in her life, or so she thinks, yet she persists. She expresses herself with art and finds connection, only for it all to be torn away. She is captured, her hands and tongue cut from her, and a swarm of crows attacks both her friends but also her captors. She feels helpless, and here likely embraces the entity. In the realm, she is just as much crow as human, it seems. A disturbing reality. She lets out strange squawks, and her arms are replaced by fluid ink. A disturbing look and tale of what the entity can do to someone. Pig, or Amanda Young, was a follower of Jigsaw, a man who created twisted games for people to partake in, with the goal of making them value their lives more. Amanda is one of these victims of the games, turned disciple, after she survives one. She soon becomes misguided from Jigsaw's goals, however, and runs her own rigged and unfair games. These eventually become her downfall, and lead Jigsaw to test her, which she fails. In her dying moment, she wants to believe this was all part of Jigsaw's plan. When she arrives in the realm, she believes it might be still, and the entity is her new leader. It's a sort of scary devotion she has, with her ability to just change the rules at any given time, to fit her beliefs and make herself feel like she's right. A scary concept too now in the realm without restriction. Visually, Pig is a fairly normal looking human, aside the obvious pig head, which is described in quite a disturbing way too. This and her hidden blade are her primary horror elements visually, I think. Plague is a tale of devotion gone too far. A person so consumed by devotion to her god that she commits terrible deeds for it, going so far as servitude within the entity's realm. Adiris is manipulated by the entity from a young age, with it whispering to her and acting as if it's her god. She follows it and worships it, believing it to be something entirely different. This leads her to end the life of her Barn, her mentor and father figure, and to then sacrifice many after him. When a plague hits the city of ancient Babylon, the entity sends no help, leaving Adiris in the dark, panicked and trying her best to appease and keep her people happy. When she too is consumed by the plague and on the brink of death, only then does the entity accept her into its realm. Adiris is definitely not a typical killer like many of the others, but she's scary nonetheless. She now wields a deadly plague and her appearance has been ravaged by it, half of her human and half of her corrupted. She wields an incense burner to mask her smell instead of a conventional weapon. It's a scary combination of elements, and she fulfills a unique role in that way. This character out of time and wholly devoted to the entity. Bubba Sawyer was raised by his family on a secluded farm in Were-Elk County. His family treated him cruelly, and he is raised to defend the farm no matter what, and stop the exposure of his family to the outside world. When some teenagers stumble across the farm, therefore, Bubba attacks them in an event that becomes known as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Bubba is misguided as a character, but he's still scary and pretty terrible regardless. A character who does what he does out of fear, which has only grown in the entity's realm, with the harsh presence of the entity which now embodies what his family once did. Visually, Bubba is pretty creepy too, from his skin mask to his wielding of both a chainsaw and cattle hammer. He's brutal and disturbing. HUNK is an unstoppable agent of Umbrella who seems to survive just about everything, with a variety of different names to accompany this. He's never been killed across the many missions he went on, including the Raccoon City outbreak, which is where the entity seems to have taken him from. In the realm, he fulfills the bad role, which is unsurprising given his loyalties and desire to simply complete a command when given one. He's inhuman with his mask and lack of expression, someone only focused on objectives and unconcerned with much else. That does make him scary, although his main downfall in the realm may be his lack of emotion, which is what the realm truly runs on. It begs the question of if beneath the mask he is enjoying his actions. A disturbing thought, and one that might be the case in the context of the realm. The Titans are both the Armoured Titan and the Warhammer Titan. These are huge creatures that have been shrunk down somewhat in the realm. They are powerful, deadly in combat, and also just look really terrifying on a surface level. The Armoured Titan's grin and the Warhammer's facial shape in particular. What's so scary too is there's actually people within, each with their own opinion on what's happening, whether it be remorse or enjoyment. To have that level of power at your fingertips is something truly scary. Whilst these two have been adapted in the realm and aren't quite as scary as they might be otherwise, they are still undoubtedly scary for both their power and visuals. Very scary. The Cenobites are servants to Leviathan and dispensers of punishment and pain. In the realm we have both the lead Cenobite, Pinhead, and his Cenobite co-worker, the Chatterer. The Cenobites appear to have come to the realm as a result of the entity taking the Lament configuration, the puzzle box that summons the Cenobites to the person who solves it, this often resulting in the person being dragged to hell. They are otherworldly travelers who are defined as demons to some but angels to others, strange beings with twisted goals. Visually they're also sort of messed up too and have a lot of origins in strange places. Mordeo is a creature that defends its territory and attacks those it deems unworthy. Therefore in the realm it's sort of terrifying, with it likely viewing most of the realm as its territory. The Mordeos have a pretty messed up backstory, and visually are quite creepy to pair with this. They are tall with large antler-like horns and wide-toothed mouths. There's a lot of elements that add to the fear factor of the Mordeo and Mordeos as a whole, something you do not want to be in the territory of. Baba Yaga is a forest-roaming character like many of the others, known for both being devious but also helpful at times too. This is a scary prospect, the idea that you could run into it on a bad day, but the equally disturbing feeling that something is wrong even on the good. This lack of consistency in the stories surrounding the Baba Yaga makes it quite scary and unpredictable. What will it do next? Visually it's also pretty creepy, stooped over and with the scary mask. It also hums a lot like Huntress and has an unsettling ambience. A creepy and confusing character. Billy is initially quite scary with his visible strength and wielding of both a handcrafted chainsaw and cattle hammer. Brutal tools. Billy himself is a story of tragedy though, which ultimately led to him becoming a monster. Billy was raised by abusive parents and kept locked away in a small room on Coldwind Farm. He never learnt to speak and only had a TV to keep him company. He was raised as a monster and given just the name Boy. The main experience of the outside world he did get was when his parents took him out to slaughter cattle due to his strength. When Boy becomes a man, he lashes out, taking down his parents as well as many others who mocked and failed to protect him. Billy at the end of his lore is set on the idea of freedom, and nothing and no one standing in his way, which is quite terrifying. Capable of creating weaponry, having significant strength, and otherworldly speed imbued by the entity, Billy is definitely one of the more grounded yet scary characters. For all of these things. The Minotaur is a character who was raised as a monster, locked away in the dark labyrinth for being half man, half bull. Here he was left and fed only people who entered the labyrinth. It's no surprise really that his treatment as a monster ended up with him becoming one. Visually the Minotaur is quite scary too, a hulking creature with immense strength. Minotaur is quite similar to the traits of Billy, with him being raised cruelly and so becoming something cruel. Scary primarily visually, but also this idea of nothing standing in their way anymore is pretty scary. Nemesis is a BOW of mysterious origin, created by Umbrella Europe. He's shown to be unstoppable and able to transform to his environment at will, an adaptive and immensely strong BOW, controlled by the Nemesis alpha parasite. Nemesis is scary mainly just for his size and the fear factor of seeing the extent of mutation and power that has been created, a hulking mass that stomps towards you, and although not present in the entity's realm, is even capable of wielding weapons. All of this paired with the name Nemesis creates quite the fear factor. All we really know is that he's an experiment, a monstrous creation. It works and it does make you wonder if this creature was once a human, or whether it was fabricated entirely. Trapper is a character with much conflicting good and evil within. On the surface level, the guy looks pretty scary. He's got heavy iron hooks piercing his skin, a sign he was once potentially on the other side of the entity's games, but also a sign of his disobedience to the entity. This is a character willing to stand up to the ruler of this realm, which is scary in itself. He further has a mask made of bone and a cleaver. His backstory is a sad one really, and a story of him being manipulated at a young age by both his cruel father and the entity more than likely. Evan, or the Trapper, is raised on harsh morals and forced against his own workers who he cares for, manipulated into hating them by his father, and subsequently ruling them with an iron fist, before causing an explosion which blocks hundreds into the Macmillan mines, and then he also attacks his father. So throughout the story of Evan, he is conflicted and unsure where his true loyalties lie. This is a scary idea, I think. This indecisiveness and ability to flip depending on the day. Some days he may be merciful, others harsh and cruel. Evan is all around a scary character from looks to backstory. Wraith is a character with a lot going on behind his soulless eyes. A character whose name indicates a ghostly presence. Wraith, I've always thought, is meant to represent him as a ghost of his former self, a shell of what he once was. Wraith grew up in the midst of a civil war, witnessing the deaths of his family, friends, and mentors, all in quite horrific ways too. He holds guilt for these things. The bell he wields and rings in the realm is actually one his father made for him, and told him to ring if his village was being attacked. He fails to ring it though, and for this he seems forever guilty, which is likely what attracted the entity to him too. When a kind woman named Fernanya takes him in and tries to get him to see hope, it is extinguished when soldiers kill her. Philip first takes a life when he is just a boy, and it seems like a moment where the entity fully connects with him. A decade on and he's in the US now, working at a wrecker's yard for a man named Azarov. Here he unknowingly crushes likely hundreds of people as he does his daily job of operating the crusher on cars, his boss secretly running a disappearing service. Philip lashes out, killing his boss and claiming his skull in the realm to be his weapon. Philip is a character who was followed by darkness and the entity too all his life, a character with immense guilt yet still a spark of humanity within. Many believe the ringing of his bell now in the realm is a choice, a warning to survivors that he is coming, the warning he wish he could have given to his townspeople all those years ago. Michael Myers is a character likely with a lot of debate around his scare factor. He's a relatively normal looking guy, just with a creepy expressionless mask and soulless eyes behind it. The person himself is pretty much gone it seems, replaced only with an evil and darkness, a desire to kill at any cost. That's definitely the scariest part about him. These goals, yet no motive or reason for it, just simply the desire to do it. Myers is responsible for terrorizing Haddonfield on Halloween night, causing the deaths of Laurie's friends and nearly Laurie herself. There's a creepy supernatural element to Myers, and his strange process of stalking and watching, a creepy character for sure. The Xenomorphs are otherworldly creatures and described as the perfect organism, a creature built to survive and outlast all. They are shown to be sneaky, smart, and extremely deadly. In the realm we have a variety of Xenomorphs, the regular one, the Queen itself, and other creations like the clone Xenomorph. All of them offer their own level of horror visually, and are quite terrifying creatures to look at. The sheer size of them, but also their build, which is built for violence and efficiency. We see how quickly on the Nostromo just how quickly and suddenly these things can go from eggs to full-blown deadly monsters that quickly take out the majority of the crew aside Ripley. Their movement is another element that adds to their horror, I think. The sleekness and precision is very scary in conjunction with considering this thing is hunting you down. It's this efficient and precise monster. Albert Wesker is portrayed a little goofy as a character sometimes, but the reality of him is a truly disturbing one. A character with a desire to essentially create a new human race, empowered by Ouroboros, and able to wipe out those unable to withstand it. He's truly despicable. A manipulator and someone who's plotted literal world domination and the deaths of billions. A character genetically enhanced from birth and someone who has grown to hate anything he deems weaker than himself, a toy to be played with. Whilst Wesker isn't the scariest visually, he certainly makes up for it in his lore and plans. The Krampus is a legend come to life in the realm, and seems to even be specifically here as a reward to the killers. In the realm, he's described almost as a punisher to survivors, who comes around routinely in the holidays. That's pretty scary, and I imagine the survivors likely fear this repeat occurrence each year. Every survivor, at least the modern ones, likely have some experience of the Krampus, and know the tale in some way. This then coming to life in the realm is likely quite scary. Visually, Krampus is also pretty terrifying, with the inhuman features like the large horns and hooves. Hag, or Lisa Sherwood, was a character raised in a secluded village, surrounded by magic. From a young age, despite her grandmother's pleas, she messed with the dangerous hex magic. Lisa's story is one which paints her as fairly innocent, but foolish. She uses the hexes to get ahead in tests and schoolwork. Her friend does it too and dies as a result. Lisa slips one day during a storm and finds herself captive to a nearby village. These people are cruel and consume people, leaving Lisa to slowly wither away in the pantry. In her dying moment, she scratches out a symbol which appears to summon the entity, where a deal is made likely for revenge in return for servitude. Despite Lisa's scary appearance and name of the Hag, she's really a cautionary tale of messing with powers someone doesn't understand. There's a huge scare factor to this though, I think, with her appearing inhuman and soulless now, overcome by the hex magic and the entity, near indistinguishable to the person she once was, and in many ways, a similar monster to that of her captors now. She may be small and may not seem so terrifying at first, but I really believe she's quite a scary story. Nurse is a complicated character who did a lot of bad and endured a lot of bad herself too. Visually in the realm, she is quite disturbing, a character floating and ghost-like and covered almost entirely, masking her face, with only her breathing coming out sporadically and distorted. The usage of her power, her blinks, causes immense pain to the point of her screaming out. It's an overall disturbing sight. She was a character whose downfall began when she began her work at Crotus Pren, the only option she had for work, and a place that caused her great damage to her mental and physical health. Crotus Pren in itself is a fascinating place, with it seeming that many of the patients within were being influenced or manipulated by the entity, suggesting that Sally or Nurse was maybe being watched and guided by the entity this whole time. Sally is pushed over the edge by a patient named the Broken Woman, who convinces her the other patients must die. Sally does this and does the same to the Broken Woman eventually, and the rest of the asylum. This, however, is a regretful action to her, it seems, with her showing care toward the survivors in the realm, in her Mori and such. She's an odd and confusing character, whose story sort of clashes within itself. Scary nonetheless, and a truly terrifying tale. Extremely scary. William Birkin is quite disturbing visually, having a contrasting physical appearance of the one rather human side and the other twisted by biological mutation. It's a scary look at the type of experiments he was working on, and the effects they are capable of having. In this form too, Birkin is still present and conscious, it seems. The eye on his shoulder has an entirely different goal to Birkin himself. After injecting the virus, Birkin realizes what he's done and wants to stop himself, but is overpowered by the other side's desire to cause violence. It's a disturbing thing to consider, a person fighting within and managing another part of you with different goals. Birkin himself is also sort of a monster before. He did work for Umbrella and was creating BOWs, with him being partially responsible for the Raccoon City incident and the deaths of many. He's not quite as cold-hearted or careless as someone like Wesker, but he's definitely not good either. Visually very terrifying and a really scary backstory to him, now in the realm being mentally torn in two with these separated sides. Luxie is a being which targets people specifically who feel guilt or remorse and are unable to move on. It comes to them, and if they fail to, it takes a piece. In the realm, the entity has made the Luxie into more of a typical slasher, forcing it into the role of Doctor's power, and putting aside any prior methods it might have had. Visually, Luxie is quite terrifying. It has an orderliness to it, yet a striking and disturbing smile, and other unsettling elements to it like its long claws. For an entity likely so powerful, it's sort of scary to realize the power of the entity is able to essentially morph any of these already powerful characters into existing roles within the realm. A scary character for sure. An entity who comes for the guilty and remorseful, and has a smile on its face as it does it. Ghostface is a man of many names. His true name, or supposedly, is Danny Johnson, a character raised by a harsh father who was likely a veteran of a war. He forced Danny to train and was harsh, leading to Danny eventually killing him. Danny grows up to idolize killers and their work, even idolizing some we know of in the realm such as Evan McMillan, the Trapper. He comes to Roseville, Florida with the goal of becoming like his idols, the Ghost of Roseville. He's someone who betrays this silly and mocking persona from the exterior, but within is actually a very unstable and easily frustrated individual. A scary combination, to be honest. He goes into a blind rage at the thought of his image being parodied. Ultimately, he decides to work for the local paper and take on the name Jed Olson, so he can drive his own narrative about the Ghost of Roseville. Hiding in plain sight, he terrorizes the town, and it's suggested he's done the same to multiple other towns too. He kills and hunts meticulously, and writes about everything he does in the paper. A terrifying combination of traits and actions. Although his look isn't as explicitly scary as others, the plain screaming mask, silent yet wide, is definitely creepy to say the least. Deathslinger is a character who is quite conflicted. Visually, he's definitely got a scare factor. He looks like a grizzled and experienced bounty hunter, wielding a brutal looking spear gun, which is exactly what he is. Caleb's backstory is one of cruelty and spreading pain with said spear gun, a character known for his brutal methods of capturing bounties, keeping them alive but making them suffer before bringing them to Hellshire Penitentiary. Him and his gang becoming well known, as he earns the name Deathslinger for his methods and choice of weapon. Everything he does is a result of his employer stealing his inventions. Caleb attacked him and was then locked away, choosing to work for the Warden in return for freedom. Caleb is a story of someone who took the wrong path, embracing vengeance and becoming something he ultimately hated but accepted in the end. A character driven by vengeance, and a terrifying, experienced and grizzled bounty hunter. If you look at the path he's walked, there is sure to be death following. Huntress is scary and partly down to the things that she may not even have done. Huntress is a legend within the Red Forest, the area she grew up in. After the death of her mother to an elk when she is young, and her father to soldiers, Anna is left alone, and as a result she becomes an efficient hunter and survivor. The death of her mother at a young age seems to cause her to seek out this own role as she grows older. She raids villages, stealing girls from them, and trying but failing to care for them. We can infer that her humming and even the mask she wears may be the final gifts or reminders of her mother, small tokens that tie her to that safety she once knew. Over the years, the creature of the Red Forest becomes misconstrued, and Huntress is believed to be something much more monstrous in appearance than what she actually is. She hunts, and when war enters the forest, she wipes out squadrons of soldiers. She is deadly, efficient, and feared by the surrounding area for a reason. Demogorgon is a horrific creature of the Upside Down, a creature able to tear and open portals and holes between the right way up and the Upside Down, and traverse between them to release chaos. It's a scary looking creature and has a striking silhouette from far off. The uncanny, not quite human yet humanoid appearance is spine-chilling. The long claws, the mouth flaps, and elongation of limbs. It's creepy. There's definitely the element of its masters or leaders too. These are just the surface level of the Upside Down, the surface of the true horrors, which in itself is sort of terrifying. The tip of the Upside Down iceberg. Pyramid Head is a being created from the mind of James Sunderland, a man with a lot of guilt over the death of his wife. He follows James throughout Silent Hill until he realizes what he's done and repents. In the realm, Pyramid Head is more of a general executioner and fulfills a role that isn't overly specific. It's a character who helps people to move on, just in a very violent way, a bit like the Looksee. It's an interesting and intriguing character, with a lot of mystery surrounding him. Design-wise, Pyramid Head has always stood out to me. There's something so striking and strange about this person with a large, hulking pyramid replacing his head. The way he stumbles and drags his oversized knife is chilling. One of the best horror designs, I think, and one filled with symbolism and a genuine fear factor. terrifying. Blight is an interesting character, and the thing I've always found scary about him is how you can see the human, or evidence of one, by the clothing and features of his outfit, but visually he's not in there anymore. It's this scary sort of transformed person, once intelligent and functional, who is now quite literally collapsing from overuse of the blighted serum. This serum mutates and destroys you slowly, but Blight continually pumps it into his veins. It's quite dark and scary. Beyond this, Blight or Talbot has quite the backstory before the realm. A character who caused many deaths with his failed original serum meant to enhance soldiers on the battlefield. He's tossed to a grave and has to come to terms with what he's done. He becomes obsessive and begins to hunt for other dimensions, doing all he can, destroying himself physically and mentally to reach the realm. And even then, he's tossed to the void, the soulless depths of the entity's realm, and is left to push through and escape by his own means before he finally lands in the trials. His story is one of constant pain and self-inflicted suffering, all coming together to create this terrifying character, his humanity fading by the day. Singularity or HUNK is pretty bad from the get-go, when we learn of his goals to essentially wipe out humanity, believing them to be beneath him and disgusted that he was created by them. HUNK was just a regular robot before he mined an ancient crystal on the alien planet of Devaka, this crystal imbuing him with incredible intelligence that resulted in him turning on the humans within his crew, taking all out aside Gabriel Soma. In the realm, HUNK still appears damaged from the explosion Gabriel inflicted onto him, and he's still angry that Gabriel got away. HUNK looks grotesque and misshapen with his cross between his metal frame and flesh, which isn't even his, but instead the Devaka crew's. It's a really disturbing image. In the trials, HUNK talks of the survivors' gene integrity, using them for parts and calling them worms. It's a scary character and a particularly grisly version of AI turning on humanity. One of the most unique characters on this side of the realm. Freddy Krueger is scary for the simple reason that he is inescapable. Every person eventually has to sleep, and when they do, they are vulnerable to Freddy, a dream demon. He can infiltrate your mind, manipulate your surroundings, and is capable of almost anything within the dream world. Freddy's backstory is also very disturbing, an abusive, disgusting character who exploited his position at Badham Preschool. The victims of his actions not only having to go through his abuse, but later when older being hunted down once again, their life taken by his hand. A reprehensible and truly terrible and evil character. Sadako Yamamura died after being pushed down a well, something that happened because of her lashing out at a journalist who called her mother a fraud. Sadako inherited her mother's powers, and so when down the well she lived on as an onryo. Whilst down there, years of anger built up and were let out one day when a cabin was built over the well. Sadako cursed a tape within the cabin so that anyone who watched it would die within 7 days. With this, she causes the death of Yuichi's parents and later tries to target him too. Her anger is only somewhat suppressed by the entity saving her, but in return, she is now in the realm, free and able to let all her anger out. Sadako is not big or imposing, but she is incredibly creepy and immensely powerful, able to end someone with a look of her eye. She is angry, vengeful, and will stop at nothing now she is free, or supposedly. It's possible the entity never actually saved her, but actually manipulated her into projecting into the realm, where she unknowingly serves it without actually being free. If she were to find this out, I'm sure the entity would only be more pleased with the emotion, but equally for the survivors, I'm sure the rage would be endless. The knight and his guards I will group together as they sort of come as a package. Tahos, Alejandro, Durkos, and Sander. These four became well known for their evil deeds, to the point where just before they were taken to the realm, they had an army raised against them with the belief that they were, and Knight in particular, the very embodiment of evil. Tahos was known for his cruelty and efficiency as he worked as a sellsword, and at one point for the Guardia Campania, a company which took him as a young boy and forced him to win his freedom. Knight loves to do what he does, and he doesn't let anyone stand in his way. If there's a peaceful way and a violent way, he's always choosing the violent one. Even in the realm, he views it as a paradise. Visually, I do think Knight looks the part. When you picture a knight, you think of someone virtuous and noble, and so you can be tricked by his appearance, which is quite scary. The truth behind this armor is a man that causes great suffering, not one who is going to nobly protect you. Also, just a huge hulking suit of armor and sword sword is pretty imposing. The guards have their ghostly look, and Tahos even has his own version of it too, a nice contrast and sort of reality to these characters. Utterly terrifying. Were-Elk is much like Huntress, and is likely actually her, just transformed. Were-Elk too was a resident of the Red Forest, and has many theories surrounding what it is. Is it Anna transformed into a Were-Elk? Did it defeat Anna and take her place as the monster of the Red Forest? Or was it even the elk itself responsible for the death of Anna's mother, now back to get Anna? This mystery and the likelihood that it is Anna, only now more monstrous and similar to the stories and legends of the things people believed her to be, she's just now that much scarier. A fierce, monstrous creature that is quite likely the culmination of memories and beliefs about the Huntress of the Red Forest. It's just like Huntress, except all of the stories combining in are true, making her even more monstrous than she was before. Oni or Kazan Yamaoka is a fearsome looking character with a hulking frame, heavy armor, a striking mask, and wielding a sword. His backstory is even worse though. He's one of the most violent characters of the lot, defeating likely thousands in combat, all to rid Japan of false samurai, or so he says, a far from noble goal that he viewed as noble. Even his parents try and stop him both verbally and physically. Oni is known as a literal demon for the actions he does. Oni Yamaoka is the name he's called, and it's the reason for his appearance as an Oni in the realm. It's meant to mock Kazan and the name he picked up, an insult to his family's once great legacy, which he ultimately destroyed, something he will be furious about, and will create a lot of emotion for the entity. He is a man full of anger, hatred, and although with regrets and realizing what he's become, he is a monster nonetheless. Doctor, put simply, is just one of the worst. He's a terrifying character despite also being very much human. He's just that bad. He doesn't even have the excuse of being an otherworldly evil entity. He's just the very worst of humanity. A man who started out in his early career with the intent to cause suffering and pain. After his recruitment by Otto Stamper, the founder of the Garden of Joy and creator of the Dredge, he went on to commit many atrocities at Larry's Memorial Institute, where he was given free rein to do what he wanted with the people he was given. In his lore, flavor text, and more, we can read about all of the insane experiments he conducted, many of them including electroshock therapy. Doctor then massacred the place before coming to the realm. Visually, the guy is disturbing too, a twisted grin and constant cackle, and electricity pulsing through him, a gift from the entity, an everlasting spark of madness. Doctor represents so much bad, despite being just a human. Dredge is at surface level one of the scarier appearing characters of the entity's realm. It's this abomination of various biological parts with no discernible features that we can reference to fully understand it. All of this coming out of a fog. The reality is even worse though. This is a creature created by all of the negative thoughts of the Garden of Joy community, a community forced to suppress all negative thought and act entirely positively, secluded on an Atlantic island and led by the Doctor's mentor Otto Stamper. The community is overcome with darkness and summons the Druani, also known as the Dredge. It consumes the people in an absorbing and inescapable darkness, leaving only its creator Otto Stamper to bear witness to what happened. Within Dredge, there is an entire world, entire groups, hundreds of people, many creatures and more, all of it presumably consumed by the Dredge. This is an all-consuming mass that only pales really to the much larger and all-consuming mass of the entity itself. Dredge is utterly terrifying from surface level to depth. Vecna is one of the most fascinating and honestly scary characters in the entity's realm, a wizard and a master of many schools of magic. After the death of his mother, he studies necromancy, where he then ascends to becoming a lich and creating an empire with his excessive power. Many would fall to his hand. It's in his search for other realms that he seems to find the entity's realm, and is immediately intrigued by its dark energy, a phenomenon that a few other characters describe. The realm is powerful and packed with this darkness. Vecna is sort of mesmerized by this, however, and begins to study and document it. He's He's a lich after all, it's not like a little darkness or death is going to put him off. But this lack of fear at all toward the entity's presence is scary in itself, probably even a bit foolish. He summons the entity and enters the realm, and he does this by translating the entity's language, something no one has ever done before, at least to my knowledge. It shows just how intelligent and powerful he is. He's said to have a sick curiosity overcoming him as he enters the realm. He enters the realm on the idea that he's going to overthrow the entity too. This is a scary sentence to read. Vecna is powerful, wielding a number of different spells and becoming far more powerful than any other realm character has. Looking at him, and he's pretty creepy looking too, floating with withered bones, easily lifting objects, and his eyes lighting up bright pink. In the realm he glides towards you rapidly, casting spells and much more. His many names of Whispered One, Lord of the Rotted Tower, and Undying King give you a sense of the fear surrounding him. This is a powerful and truly scary character. The Scariest is of course a huge debate, but for me there is a clear outlier. It's partly down to the fact that it's such an embodying character, a character really able to fulfill many of the roles prior characters have. My pick for the Scariest therefore is the Unknown, and I like this conceptually as an idea too. The idea of unknown as a character aside, the concept of the unknown is something that is representative of horror as a whole, the eternal mystery of what lies within the darkness. The Unknown to me is such a perfect combination of so many elements. It's a character that isn't defined by any one of its stories or perspectives. Is it a slasher? Is it an alien? Is it some creature of the entity's fog? The answer is eternally maybe? Visually, Unknown is disturbing too. There's something uncanny and off-putting about its appearance, its twisted and strange smile, and the fact that it seems to be some tentacled mass wearing some skin essentially. It's messed up from lore to visuals and is utterly disturbing in every aspect. The varying tales and lore you can learn from reading the entries in-game only adds to the legend of this character. This is behavior's greatest creation, I think, and the scariest killer to ever enter the entity's realm. Well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to let me know your thoughts too down below. I do my best to read through as many as I can, and I do truly appreciate all of your input and responses. If you did enjoy the video, I would appreciate a like and a subscription if you feel like it. Thanks, and goodbye.